Now, as I said, we were expecting to have a guest to talk a little bit about some action that took place in Liverpool over the weekend. A gentleman called Chris Hines. He represents an organisation, although it's not quite an organisation in the common way that you might think, called Meet the Victims. Meat being spelt MEAT, so referring to the animal foods. Now, let me just see if I can get Chris in on the conversation. Hi, Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Lovely, thank you for joining us, sir. So, we heard a little bit about this action, Meet the Victims in Liverpool. We saw some stuff on the Daily Mail that this action had taken place, and apparently a farm was, I don't know if invaded is the right term to use, but occupied by 100 or more activists. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of background as to what Meet the Victims, who Meet the Victims are, and what happened on the weekend.
Yeah, sure. So Meet the Victims actually started in Australia by a lady over there called Leah Dollinger, and basically the whole idea of it is to try and get the public to, as the name suggests, meet the victims of our food choices. Unfortunately, these industries are very hidden away from us. They claim to be very transparent and let the public know exactly what goes on. But what actually goes on behind closed doors is such a far cry from what we're being told that these actions kind of work to break that that vision that they're trying to give and actually show people what's going on. So what it basically involves is activists going onto the properties of these farms to live stream and tell the stories of the animals that are in there. It's a peaceful, non-violent action. We're not actually there to attack the members of staff or anything like that. It's purely to give a voice to the animals inside, the forgotten victims, because we are in a society that seems to forget that what is on our plate used to be a living being. And we want to try and get people to make that connection. So the one we did on Saturday was at a farm called Holme Farm in Chester, which is a pig farm, which we believe to be connected with a major supermarket, although we haven't been able to confirm that enough to kind of publicly say who that is. But what it represents, that farm, is what is basically standard animal farming for pigs. What was being shown is not abnormal. It's not an isolated incident. This is, unfortunately, the standard these animals live in. And obviously, what we're sold on the adverts is them in nice fields and everything, and it's just not the case. So,
okay, so I mean, what is the? If I can just jump in for a second, Chris. So what is the difference? What is the difference between the images that you were because you were basically streaming images from within the farm into the city of Liverpool, right? There was screens set up for people to see what was going on in the farm just that was probably serving them just outside of the city. So what's the difference between what we think happens in the farm to what actually happens in the farm? Like you said, this is a farm that was kind of British Farm Assured, red tractor. It's got all the certifications. It's not an unusual farm that you were targeting here, was it? So what is? No, sorry.
Yeah. So basically, when we watch adverts for these products, we're sold this kind of idyllic image of animals out in the fields and they're all being treated amazingly well and everything. What we're not being shown is the conditions they're actually being kept in, and also, with the most important bit of all, the actual fact that these animals go to slaughter. The slaughterhouse footage, especially, is never shown to anybody, because we know that if it was, it would upset people. People, we're a nation of animal lovers. We all care for these creatures, and seeing them die is not something that any of us likes. So what we're showing is the reality. Most of these animals are living in horrible, cramped, dirty barns. The majority of the animals aren't outside. In fact, at this farm, those animals were allowed outside. So this would possibly be classed as a free-range farm as well. But what people don't realise is the rest of the time when they're not outside, they're kept in these horrible barns. The mothers especially are kept in what's known as farrowing crates, which doesn't even allow them to turn around. They can take a few steps forward, a few steps back. They can basically stand up and sit down. They'll be inside these crates for about a month at a time. If we did that to any other animal, a dog, for example, everyone would be, outraged. But for some reason, because these are seen as food animals and we're not told about this, we kind of shy away from this. We don't really kind of pay attention to it, and we accept it, which we shouldn't. So the idea of this is to kind of, wake people up to to what's going on and show what's really going on, and not just what the industry wants to show us.
Yeah, I think I the first time I saw, a mother pig in a farrowing cage, with its babies kind of running around it and it's unable to move, essentially. It's such a horribly frightening, it's just such a horrible image. And then to conceive that mother pig has to be there for a month in those kind of confined circumstances, it's just such a horrible... it's kind of remarkable to think where these systems were designed or who came up with them, or it's kind
of. I think the main word. We've got to remember that is we're talking about mothers. We're talking about mothers and their children.
Yeah.
These animals might not be the same as us, but they're still sentient, living, breathing beings. This mother is stuck in there watching her babies, unfortunately, die around her. Like, why are we accepting?
No, it's very shocking, and I think anybody who would see the images of what modern day farming looks like would find it to be somewhat shocking. I'm sure. I think everybody would kind of agree with that. You mentioned there about obviously we don't see what happens in terms of slaughter. You've got a lot of experience with this in terms of the actions that you see, and a lot of our listeners would be Muslim. And so, is there a difference between halal slaughter and regular slaughter?
Well, I mean, what I would say for that is, if we think about it in a realistic term, there is no nice way to kill someone that doesn't want to die. So regardless how we do it, whether it's done halal, kosher, or the standard methods, we do bolt guns and things like that. These are living, breathing beings that value life in the same way that we do, in the same way that our animals at home that we care for do. So regardless how we do it, it can't ever be done nicely. And when we also bear in mind that what we're doing is also completely unnecessary. I mean, the science is showing that we can live without these products. We don't need them in our diets. I mean, I haven't eaten any meat, since 2002. I've been completely vegan now for 5 years, and I'm absolutely fine. Had my blood test done recently, nothing wrong with me whatsoever. The science all backs this up. So
what about your protein? What about your protein?
Oh, the protein. Yeah. So the protein thing is obviously is actually a huge myth. That every food out there contains protein. In fact, there isn't even. I don't even think there's a scientific term to describe protein deficiency. I think
That's right.
It's just not eating.
That's right.
I think so some of the people are getting enough. Yeah. So it's just thinking: is there a nice way to do this? And if it's unnecessary, should we be doing it?
Yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about health and nutrition on the programs that we do here at Fever, and it seems, looking at the research and the kind of research we're bringing out to the listeners, that the avoidance of animal products is far healthier, in fact, because the animal products come with a lot of baggage. There's the typical thing, saturated fat, cholesterol, but the bigger thing are these endotoxins that are existent, this bacteria that breeds on dead animals. And obviously animals that are treated so poorly in such bad conditions, they're going to have these kind of endotoxins there. So even if you could get past the idea of killing an animal for food, it doesn't seem like as if it sustains us very well or brings health into our bodies. It seems, if we take more compassionate choices, we bring more health to ourselves as well. So just from the health angle, it seems unnecessary. Clearly you're shining a light on the fact that this idea that we've got in our minds of these happy farms where there's a couple of happy cows roaming around and a couple of sheep and a couple of pigs and a happy farmer and the kid running around, it's not really like that. And I guess anybody who's to see the kind of images that you were projecting from, again, a red tractor, British assured farm, what's meant to be normal, would feel alarmed that this is what we regard as normality in the UK.
I mean, the thing I would add in there as well is, even if these animals were on these family farms where they were being cared for, ultimately they are still being sent to slaughter for something that we don't need.
Yes.
So how they're being treated, I mean, obviously we want these animals to be treated well if they're in this system, but ultimately they're all being killed regardless. And if we don't need to do something, killing unnecessary is wrong in any context, and I think that's what we just got to remember.
Yes, I think I can kind of agree with you on that. Largely, we have so many food options available around us, what would be the need to consume meat. Now, some people out there think that there's a nutrition angle. We've kind of been discussing that over the weeks, and it clearly doesn't seem that that's the case. In fact, now this Game Changers movie has come out, and that seems to be providing, a good basis for understanding that you don't need meat to be strong, fit, manly, healthy. So we can take the health angle away. Now, why are we doing this? What is this all for? We've got an environmental collapse going on. It doesn't help in that respect. And certainly just taking all of that away, just the animals deserve more than what we provide them with. And certainly this image we've got of happy farms isn't the case. And like you say, even if they were happy farms, what's the need when we've got Tesco's and we've got various supermarkets on every single corner, haven't we?
Exactly. I think people have got to realise that it's a movement based on love and compassion. As much as some of the actions that people see, they think what we're doing is extreme. We're doing it because we care deeply for these animals, for these other beings. We're only trying to defend them. We're not inciting violence. We're not about violence. We're completely anti-violence. What we want is a better world for not just human beings but for animals as well. And I just really want people to understand that is what our movement is about. People think we're extremists. They label us all these different kinds of names, but ultimately we care. We care about animals, and we just want them to be free, because I think that's what they deserve. Sure.
So can I ask you, with the action that happened in Liverpool, how many people were in the farm?
Yes, we had about 150 actually in the farm. So
150 people. How long were they in the farm?
They're in there for about 7 to 8 hours. We entered about 4 a.m. and I believe they came out around 1 o'clock. They had a bit of backlash from the farmers in there, understandably. I mean, they are going onto their property. They were hosed down actually by the farmers. So a lot of them were kind of soaking wet and freezing for the time they were in there. But again, everyone in there feels that this is important, and this minor, inconvenience to them and the farmers is, a small thing in regards to the inconvenience that these animals are going through. The farmers are back to work today. The activists are all out. Those animals are still there.
Yeah, and so you're saying that these 150 people in the farm, they stood there. They can't use the bathroom. They can't eat. I'm presuming the conditions are quite horrible.
I mean, nobody wants to be in these places. I mean, they're horrible, dirty places full of excrement. They stink. There's just death and sorrow around. You look into these animals' eyes, and they're not happy. These are not nice places to be. No one wants to be there. They feel we have to be there. We don't feel we don't feel people are listening, and we just want people to start taking note, because these animals aren't waiting around for us to change. That they're going to slaughter every single day, and we just want to try and speed that up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen the conditions. It looks awful, and the smells and the environment. I can't imagine being in there, in somewhere like that, for more than a few minutes, never mind 8 hours. And from my understanding as well, that on the Daily Mail, they were saying that the farmer had sprayed water over these people, so they were wet. They stood there for 8 hours to shine a light on what was going on in the farm. I commend you for the fact that it's a totally peaceful, non-violent affair. And you're doing what you can, as far as possible within the remits of legality to shine light. So, I appreciate what you've done. It was really interesting reading about the stuff that you've done, about this weekend's activity, and also the other events. Events not even the right word, is it? Other actions that you committed prior to last weekend's action. And around the world. I hope, and I'm interested to hear from our listeners what they think about it. It's a shame our messages system aren't up, but if any of the callers do want to express an opinion, or if they've got any thoughts on what's been said, if you want to give us a call when one of the songs are playing, I will certainly be here to listen and communicate that out. Chris, any final words?
All I would say is, if anyone wants to learn more about the action and see some of the footage, you can go to facebook.com/virtue for animals, which had all the updates on. And I would just invite everyone to, people think that this vegan lifestyle is difficult, and it's really not. And it's something that's going to benefit the animals, it benefits the environment, and it benefits ourselves as well in a health way and also in a spiritual way. It's clarity of mind that we're not causing harm to these other beings. So if anyone is interested, there's a website called Challenge 22. It's a 22-day vegan challenge, which we encourage people to give a try, and hopefully by the end of that, you'll understand more and hopefully continue and help us to make a more peaceful world for everybody.
Good stuff. So virtue for animals. Understand by being vegan you can help yourselves, help the environment, help the animals, of course. If you're interested in trying out a vegan diet, Challenge 22. That's 22 days of free vegan kind of coaching, helping you with recipe ideas and just being kind of a shoulder to cry on if you need that. Really, really good stuff. Thank you so much for spending the time to explain that to us, Chris.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate your time, and wishing you a very, very good day wherever you might be, sir. Let's play you the next track by Shri Ram and Shrey Ghoshal Ji. This one's called Bulma. It should need no introduction. What we got to say, yard? If you want to be more spiritual, if you want to be more present, if you want to feel a bit healthier perhaps, if you want to do your bit for the environment, if you love animals, yard, give veganism a try. Just eat plants. If you don't like the word veganism, drop the word G. Just eat plants for a little bit. See how you feel. Your body might start communicating to you. It might say, thank you. You're doing the right thing. Take this blessing. Go forth and prosper. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But you can only know if you give it a try. Experience is the best teacher, G. Wisdom, true wisdom, doesn't come from books. It comes from experience.